So I think we're going to start. I just wanted to welcome everyone to this panel and this panel discussion. I think it was something, we felt was very timely. We put together, sort of in this flurry of activity, and we just are so happy and excited and grateful that we had, I think we're way over capacity. We originally had, I think, 500, we started with 500 participants that we could have, and we automatically ended up having three times as many, so 1,500 registrants for this topic of conversation. So thank you so much for your interest. Thank you so much for your support. If you can't stay through the whole thing, if other folks want to get on, we're also on Facebook on the I Am Not a Virus page, live streaming as well. We'll also upload this to YouTube as a future date so that you can hang out and watch it at your leisure. If you, can't stay through the whole thing right now, or have other folks who aren't able to get on to watch it. Just some housekeeping. We're going to, I think, start to mute and close the chat room for right now. It's not that we don't want to hear from you. What we'll do is go through the panel, have a panel discussion, and then open it up to questions and answers, right after, at the end of the discussion. So the topic of discussion, most of y'all know already, but just to let you know is that, this panel is actually hosted by several Asian American activist organizations, so including mine, Be Cool 2, number 2, Be Cool to Asians, I Am Not a Virus, Racism is a Virus, and Wash the Hate. And I think I got everybody right. Be Cool to Asians, I'm Not a Virus, Racism is a Virus, and Wash the Hate. So we're all coming together. Excuse me?
Hate is not a virus.
Hate is not a virus, and hate is not a virus. I apologize. I think that oh, you know what? That was today's edition. Hate is not a virus. So I think it's, just all of us trying to come together, even as Asian American groups, to show support and solidarity to the African American community when we're now on day 10 of these, incredible, amazing, stressful, at times scary, protests that are going on around the world. And so the real topic of conversation today is how can we, as Asian Americans, support, our Black and brown brothers and sisters in this, really crucial, important, and monumental moment in time in our fight against police brutality and the institutionalized racism that has led to this moment in time. So I'm going to go really quickly to who our panel members are. I'm going to introduce myself first. I'm Valerie Chow, founder of Be Cool to Asians media campaign. I am usually behind the camera, which is why I'm looking and sounding so crazy right now. I am a reality show television executive producer, so I produce shows for Netflix and OWN and Nat Geo and Food Network, and I have a production company called Thirsty Tiger Television. I'm old, didn't know what thirsty meant until after the company was founded. So I'm usually behind the camera, so thank you, bear with me for giving me this opportunity to actually be in front of camera. I am not, an activist. I've been learning with lots of other folks, so forgive me in advance if there's things that I misrepresent or things that I'm misstating. I'm just here to learn with everybody else and try to help facilitate. So in terms of our panel members, we just have I'm so excited. We've had just these amazing people who've been willing to speak and teach and, give us leadership for this topic. So I'd like to start with Yolanda McNair. Can you please introduce yourself, ma'am?
Hi, everyone. I'm Yolanda McNair. I'm the mother of Adaisha Miller. My daughter was killed by a Detroit police officer one day before her 25th birthday. Her birthday is July 9th, and she was killed July 8th, 2012. There are a multitude of different stories and lies that were told on my daughter, including 5 different versions of how she was shot. Dealing with that prompted me to begin a nonprofit to help families deal with that stress of dealing with police, with trying to recover from the loss. And I was fortunate enough in a downward way, but I met Kimberly Davis, who is the vice president of Post, Myrtilla Jones, who is the grandmother of Ayanna Stanley Jones, Kevin Kellum, who is the father of Terrence Kellum. All of our children were killed by somebody with a badge. We co-founded Protect Our Stolen Treasures, and I'm the president of it.
Thank you, Yolanda. And I think that's so amazing and great. And I think it's really important that we talk about your work as an activist, because, you know, this panel is very much about not wanting to, I think what happens sometimes with activism is, I call it the pornography of pain, where folks, you know, bring out families almost like, you know, you come out and you do your show and you tell your super sad story, and then you get played off the stage, you know, and then no one
like we're
wants to
show
hear your
ponies.
activism. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I said it's like we're show ponies, you know, brought out to tug at your heartstrings, and then once they have you engrossed, they just move us off and, you know, go on to whatever their personal agenda is. But Post has 6 chapters. We're in 6 states. That's a lot of people believing in my vision and the goals. But what we do is help families to recenter themselves, because once this happens, you were so off balance. We help people with dealing with the press. We help people with dealing with the police. We tell them what kind of questions to ask, what to look for. You know, write that down. You need to remember that. It's a lot of stuff going on at that time, and people don't understand. And this is one of the things that we want to get some legislation out there to change. From the moment your loved one is killed, you are on the clock. You don't even have an idea how you're going to fathom what happened, but you are on the clock in your fight for justice for them. The police have all kind of time. They can change their stories. They got up to 90 days to even submit a report that will be stamped final. They can keep revising it, but you can't keep revising what you want to do. You're on the clock. So we help them with that. If they need a spokesperson, or if they need some sort of representation, somebody to just come and hold their hands. I know people all over the place, all over this country and in other countries. So I can find somebody that can get to you or talk to you, or I'll talk to you personally. I tell people all the time, my phone is on 24/7. And yeah, they have tested me. I've got calls at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I answer the phone. But what we are trying to do is help people to restabilize themselves, because it could have been the breadwinner that was killed. So now, how are you going to take care of the family? You know, it could be the only parent that was actually parenting is gone. So now the grandparents have to take over that job. We help them. We help support them in what they're doing. Our ultimate goal is to be able to give a person a month to breathe. You know, help them pay their rent or mortgage, help them put groceries in the house, help them with childcare, psychological and medical help, as well as, you know, getting back out there in the work field. These are all the nuances that people have to deal with, and they don't people on the outside who just see somebody got killed don't understand the domino effect, and that's what we deal with.
I think that is so important, and thank you for saying that, because I think that is something that people don't think about, you know, that all of a sudden George Floyd isn't a person anymore, Adaisha isn't a person anymore, but somehow this symbol, and then you're starting to forget the real people, the real families, the real complications, you know, of how you're going to pay for the funeral, how you're going to, you know, pay the bills, you know, you're sitting at home like, what are you going to do with her things? How are you processing that grief? And I think that that is often not, you know, seen or discussed, because then people become symbols of a movement rather than honoring and remembering the humanity and the individuals such as they are, you know, and who they were and are to their families. So thank you for that. Our second panelist, who was absolutely wonderful and saved my booty, you know, late last night when we had to do a last minute replacement. Our other wonderful brother, Oja Vincent, actually, I know he was on the panel previously. He had an engagement that he had to deal with that was a priority for him, and we absolutely understand and get it. We miss you, Oja. We wish you were here. But it was amazing because we were able to get Victor, who really stepped up to the plate for us. So Victor, if you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story. Victor? Victor, are you on mute or can I not hear you?
I got it. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, there you are. Hey, Victor, hey.
My eyes are not working so well at this time of hour.
It's okay. My eyes and ears can't work either, so don't worry about it. So tell me about Delrawn. Tell me about why you're with us today and what you want to talk about.
Well, thank you for having me, and I also wish Oja was here as well. But I'm here. My name is Victor Dempsey. As you see, I'm the brother of Delrawn Smalls. This is my older brother. My brother was murdered by off-duty officer in Brooklyn, New York, July 4th, 2016. It was affectionately dubbed the Brooklyn Road Rage incident, all over YouTube and everything. I do this work because the pain that I felt, the pain that I still feel today, it never subsided. And I started realizing, if I'm dealing with this, I'm sure there's other families, there's other folks that are dealing with this too. And it bothered me, In my brother's case, when he was murdered, the officer actually lied in the beginning. He said that my brother assaulted him. His exact words verbatim was Mr. Smalls hit him repeatedly. And when they asked how many times approximately, he said 21 times original. That was his original statement. Unfortunately, because of that statement, the first 8 days, my brother's case was pretty much written off. The public didn't care about it. They assumed that some black man hit an officer, so he deserved what he got. So 8 days later, thank God, a video surfaced. There was a business directly in front of it that was closed because the owner was on vacation in July. And when he came back, he found a video. Thankfully, my family, which is ironic, we owned a barbershop directly next door. So it was just surreal that, we had that barbershop, we're still working, we're still going there, and we have to see, excuse my vulgar language, but a bloodstained concrete every time we went. But that video gave me the impetus to fight for my brother. Because before I seen the video, I told any and everybody from media across the world that my brother would have never hit him. I know that for a fact, and I kept saying it. Obviously, me losing a loved one, people will expect me to say that. They expect me to come to his defense. But when that video surfaced, that was the first day I cried about my brother because I knew I was right. But what the video showed was Wayne Isaac shooting my brother 3 times almost instantaneously as he approached the vehicle. And I know I kind of left the piece out of folks saying, well, what happened? Well, Wayne Isaac was driving, got off of work, driving maybe about 10 minutes side by side to my brother down a road in Brooklyn called Atlantic Avenue. And he was driving erratically, which he was causing my brother to kind of swerve away from him, but he could have potentially gotten into an accident with other cars. So unfortunately, they met each other at a stoplight where my brother noticed that he was there. And at the time, he had my 3-month-old nephew in the car seat. At that time, 14-year-old niece in the car, and his girlfriend coming back from a cookout. And I think as any man would do to protect your family, he wanted to, I'm assuming that he wanted to get out and say something to him. But my brother never got a chance to ask that man how his day was going, because as soon as he approached the vehicle, he died. The worst part about it was sitting through that trial, we had to realize that it was a possibility that my brother could have actually lived. Even though he got hit 3 times, he got hit on the pelvic, which kind of, sorry to be so graphic, but I think people need to know because this is the pain that we relive regularly. My brother got hit on the hip, which pretty much made paralyzing when he couldn't walk. So he was limping. But he also got hit in the lung, which caused internal bleeding. So he pretty much drowned in his own blood. So the worst part about this was after Wayne Isaac shot him, he did not try to render any medical care. He dialed 911, did not tell anybody on 911 that there was a man that he shot. All he said was a member of service discharged their firearm and that he needed medical attention because he was hit. Never mentioned any time was this a man dying right before him. So with all of that pain and finding out all that information and not understanding how to navigate a system that was so foreign to me, I knew that other families was feeling the same way I felt. So I do this work day in and day out. So no one that has to deal with this has to feel the way I felt.
Well, going back to your brother for a moment, and I know that, this was supposed to be an intro, to everyone, but I think this is such a great moment that we need to follow up on is, you know, going up to your brother, can you speak about the fact that, you know, when you told me the story, he was shot, you know, in terms of how his life could have been saved. How many hours did they leave him in the street? Because I think that's a really important and poignant thing to think about. Like, he was shot, and how many hours was he even out there? Can you speak about that?
Yeah. So at the time, I was actually living upstate New York, not in the city, which is about 45 to an hour out. And I got the call, and this is relevant because you got to think, me traveling to get to him, you know, we traveled about an hour, get down there. It was really hard to get in because of all the streets that was blocked up, obviously with the police involved shooting. And everyone was trying to stop me and talk to me, everybody. But I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. We were on the side of the block because they wouldn't let us on the main street. And I finally found out that my brother was actually dead because my own family didn't want to tell me because they knew how close we were. But we were so close that we kind of hated each other on some days. And we fought a lot. You know, that's what big little brothers do, you know. But after the internal affairs investigator spoke to me was when they let me look around the corner. But mind you, it took me 45 minutes to get down to the city. It took me about another 35 minutes to get the person in charge there to come and speak to me, to allow me to come in. And as I'm talking, and I'm just like, well, what hospital he's in? Where is he? Like, you know, why am I still here? And he said, oh, nobody told you. I'm like, told me what? He said, your brother's gone. I said, what do you mean gone? Like, that doesn't make sense. And then he like tried to touch me. Mind you, I don't even know this guy, right? Who are you to console me? And I looked, and then I seen a sheet. And I said, wait, my brother's here? He's still here? So long story short, yeah, 2.5 hours went by, but then this whole time I'm staying there figuring it, or they're quote unquote investigating their case, while they have Officer Wayne Isaacs in the ambulance going to seek fake medical attention, my brother was still laying on the ground, still drowning, but not drowning in blood anymore, drowning in loss of life. So it hurt. He was basically out there for about 5.5 hours on the concrete before they actually moved his body. And we didn't even get to see them move his body because they drove my whole family to the precinct wanting to question us about, I can't even remember because I was just too pissed off that night.
5.5 hours. Is there a sense of, you know, you said he could have survived. Is there a sense of how quickly, you know, if the officer had immediately called an ambulance, you know, would he have been able to survive? You know, do you have any sense of how, you know, the timing of that? Like, if he just did it 20 minutes earlier, or if he just did it 30 minutes earlier? So
it's funny you asked me that question because actually a few people ask me that question when I tell them that. And Vanessa, my good sister, I think she remembers this book. This book I've had since the first day of trial. My brother's picture's always in it. I use it for work now. I have every note from jury duty, from arraignments to everything in this book. Everything. I actually use this book as a manual when we're helping other families navigate this case. So what I'm telling you is I have the notes from the medical examiner's testimony. The medical examiner said to us that he cannot be certain which one of the 3 bullets into my brother's body first, but he was certain which bullets hit what organs. So had he shot him once, maybe my brother would have lived. Maybe he just would have been paralyzed. Had he shot him twice, maybe he just would have had a limp the rest of his life. But the 3-time shooting, you know, not only did he put him to the ground and drown his own blood, the fact that could have saved him was actually rendering the medical attention. It wasn't the shots. It's had Wayne Isaacs at least went to go conduct some form of CPR or even put puncture on the wound to not bleed out. It was a possibility. We don't know the percentage of that possibility. They wouldn't want to say it on the stand, but the fact that he didn't render service changed everything.
Can I say something right quick?
Of course.
It seems to be that the standard operating procedure right now is render no medical attention so that there's only one story being told, the officer's version of whatever happened. When it came to Adaisha, it took them 25 minutes to call 911. They made certain my daughter was dead before anybody was called. But
you know,
that seems to be the standard operation for them.
sorry to interrupt, Yolanda. I was actually going to circle back to you. Would you mind laying out your story? Just, just because we're going to do intros, but now we're right into the story, which is fabulous. So, can you lay out Adaisha's story about her birthday weekend and how she ended up, being shot and killed?
Okay, I can tell you the versions that they've told me because I have no idea. But my daughter was just like me. If your birthday's on a Sunday and Monday, how much fun can you have? So she was celebrating her upcoming birthday, which would have been that Monday, on Friday and Saturday. Saturday evening, I'm getting ready for work. Her father is at my house, my son, and one of my cousins. She comes over, tells me she's getting ready to go to a party that the young lady a couple of doors down told her about. Okay, fine, you're celebrating your birthday, no big deal, You got two of my cell phones with you, so if you need me, call me. Those were my exact words. I didn't know where she was going exactly, but when she gave me the general area, I said, okay, well, you got cousins in the area, something jump off, call one of them or walk to their house. And that's the thing, she was literally in walking distance of family. But depending on which witness statement you want to believe, 15 minutes or 45 minutes after my daughter arrived at that party, she was dead. They waited 25 minutes to call 911. And out of 40 people at that party, only one phone call was made. And ironically enough, it was the officer. Okay, my daughter was at the officer's house at his party. Let me make that clear first. He's off duty. He's got family, co-workers, friends at the party. For some reason, he has his service weapon on him. And when the phone call was made, it's the wife that calls. And she says, and I'm quoting her now, "Somebody got shot in my house. We don't know who did it, but they're not here." And the 911 operator says, "Hold on. How can you say they're not here if you don't know who did it?" She said, and it sounds like she's ordering chicken. Well, anyway, they 25 as of today. They either shot in the arm or the chest. What you want us to do?
I think that.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think that, your story is poignant along with Victor's because, you're talking about that 15, 25 minutes before they called 911. Victor's talking about, that time that, part and parcel of police brutality and part and parcel of how this turns into murder is that it seems like when the officers involved, there's a little scrambling, there's a little, let me come up with my story, there's a little covering my own booty, rather than to actually call for medical attention that could save somebody's life. And I think that is something that seems to be a theme that comes up, over and over again in a lot of these stories, is that a lot of these folks didn't have to die. A lot of these folks weren't going to be, shot. They were not shot and dead immediately, that there could have been a fighting chance. But because, again, of that sort of, this culture of got to cover up what I did and I got to, not get in trouble, that delay has literally cost people's lives, and that sounds to me like a common thing.
And then, I'm sorry, but with Adaisha, now with Adaisha's case, she was dead immediately. The bullet went through her lung and through her heart, not nicked something. They told me the bullet came out her back. We don't know where it is. We probably will never find it. I get the coroner's report. The bullet came to rest in her back. You could see the lump where it was at. You could feel it if you touched her back. They retrieved the bullet. But the thing is, my daughter was shot by an African-American officer. My daughter's African-American, of course. When the police got to the scene, my daughter was outside. The wife says she got shot inside. She damn sure didn't walk outside. The officer said when he went to check my daughter for a pulse, she was cold to the touch. Like I said, this is July 8th, 2012. Detroit was going through a heat wave. It was 80 degrees that night when my daughter got shot. She shouldn't have been cold to the touch. And then they picked my daughter up, put her in the police car, and took her to the hospital because the EMS was going to take too long. Instead of leaving her there, they chose to disturb a crime scene in order to get her death pronounced later. They said, well, no, Adaisha died at 12:55. No, Adaisha died at 12:05 when she got shot. The cops did a great job getting her body to the hospital, but there was no saving my daughter. And it should have been left the way it was, a crime scene. Then we could deal with, the wife said she was in the house when she got shot, so how did she end up out here? They did everything they could to cover up for that cop. And they do that every day. You know, it's not all cops. I know good cops. I know damn good cops. But a silent cop is not a good cop. That's a good cop trying. You know, and you can't be quiet for the brotherhood because they will turn on you anyway. And that's what the cops need to understand. I mean, I wore a uniform just like the cops did. I worked the same amount of time on the job working for the city of Detroit doing security as the cop did. But do you think that they would lie for me? They're not going to lie on me, but they sure as hell not going to lie for me because I'm not going to ask them to. I'm not going to expect them to. And this city was all about protecting themselves. They drug my daughter's case out almost 11 months until it went into the city, no, 6.5 months till the city went into bankruptcy and then suspended the investigation. Took away all my time and my chance of getting justice for my daughter. And this cop is still out here on the streets today. And I'm gonna be quiet for a while. You can go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask, you know, if you could tell us what, basically at the end of the day, they said alleged happened, because you told me that there were several different versions of the story.
Yeah. Okay.
Versus what you think really happened, you know.
Well, I'm going to say, I don't think it was a cop that shot my daughter. I think it was somebody who got a hold of his gun that shot my daughter. He's just taking the blame to protect them. And the reason I'm not putting that out there is because despite what they think, I'm not done. I'm not done with this. I went through a lot to get my daughter here. So until I don't breathe no more, I'm fighting for her. 5 different versions of how she got shot. Sunday is, they were standing side by side and the gun went off somehow and she was shot. Day 2 is a face-to-face hug and the gun went off and she got shot. Day 3, she's trying to get him to dance with her from the rear. The gun goes off, she gets shot. Day 4, he's dancing with his wife. My daughter's still trying to get him to dance with her, and the gun goes off and he gets shot. Day 5, a reporter here in Detroit asked me what my daughter did for a living. And I want y'all to pay attention to how they do this twist. He asked me what she did for a living. I said she's a licensed massage therapist that specializes in physical therapy. That was at 10 a.m. By noon, Detroit police put out that my daughter was doing an exotic dance on the ground, grabbing at the officer's waist, and that's how the gun went off. And here's the funny part, the punchline. All my daughter's friends, and my daughter has hundreds of friends, all our family, everybody knows one thing for certain about Adaisha. She doesn't dance. She never did. Sway to the music? Yeah. Dance? Never. Never has my daughter danced. So how is it she's supposed to be getting this married man to dance with her? None of it made sense. My daughter, if you're married, you're married. Good, bad, whatever, that's your problem. But she's not gonna have anything to do with you. Thing is, my daughter's this pretty young chocolate thing with long black hair at this party that he doesn't know. There are injuries to my daughter that were not written into her autopsy report, but were photographed for her autopsy. And they chose to hide those until my attorney that I had at the time went to court to get them. Adaisha had a gash to her forehead, right side about a half an inch long, a little over a half an inch deep. They cleaned it up, took a photo of it. She had abrasions to the outside of her right knee. But everybody said out the 14 statements that we got, which technically was 8 people, and they went back and asked a couple of people other questions. But cookie cutter, no matter where they were in the backyard, no matter how loud the music was that the DJ that was there playing music was playing, heard a firecracker, saw her fall. No matter where they were in the yard, their perspective, they were able to turn around in enough time to see my daughter fall. I've been doing this way, way too long to even buy that, even to try to buy that. There's no way somebody in the dark by the garage can see what happened at the front gate. There's 40 people there. They're dancing, they're drinking, they're talking. There's no way to see. But somebody said, oh no, I was by the DJ watching him play the music, but I heard a firecracker and I saw her fall. How can you hear a firecracker?
So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we certainly don't want to intend to re-traumatize you in any way by asking you to tell the story again. So I appreciate you telling the story. In terms of, when we spoke, you said you started your own group and you're helping other families who've been affected by police brutality. What can we do as allies, people that we want to, to be supportive? What can we do to help, to support?
Sorry, I just got to step in at this point. To Yolanda and Victor, I am absolutely embarrassed. It's shame that we're forcing you to relive your trauma right now and make you drag it out. As an Asian American, I think it's really incumbent on me to speak up when this is just wrong, and this is not what I signed up for. What I signed up for was to listen and to hear your pain. What I signed up for was to acknowledge that the Asian American community has not done enough, that we have been silent for too long, that we need to shut up and listen, that we shouldn't be forcing you to drag you through an interview. And Katrina, I am sorry you've had to sit here through this. To every person, Black person who's been watching this, I am terribly sorry. I did not know that this is what was gonna happen, but Victor, like, to hear your story and to make you, force you to talk about your brother like that. Yolanda, I'm your daughter. This is not what this was supposed to be.
Damn, can I say something really quick? I'm sorry. I don't feel slighted in any manner, because let me tell you something. The folks you see on this panel right now, Yolanda, Katrina, Vanessa, and there's countless other family members. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it's not painful every time we tell a story. It is, but I'll tell you this. What you just said to me means so much more. The fact that you acknowledge that being an Asian American, you have not done enough. This is why we tell our stories. So believe it or not, believe me, I'm not going through the ringer right now. I'm at peace being here, sharing my story with almost 1,600 folks, brother. So I appreciate you standing up and making sure that we're not being re-traumatized. But I guarantee you, we're not victims, brother. We're warriors.
Right.
We've been fighting day after day, year after year. And like Yolanda said, until my last breath comes, I'm going to keep fighting. And this is a part of my fight. A part of my fight is making sure nobody forgets my brother's name.
Exactly.
Part of my fight is to make sure that all these panelists here, we're uplifting each other on a national level. So I do want to say to everybody listening, I thank Sam for standing up, because we need more of that, because this fight takes so much out of us and we've all sacrificed so much. But I will say, I'm extremely comfortable doing this. I don't want to speak for every panelist because we all do things differently, but I know these women here, they taught me so much, and they're warriors too. So I don't mind going on. I'm fine, trust me. I'm just happy that we're here to share the story. But thank you for that, Sam.
Thank you for speaking. Thank you for speaking up, Sam. And like I said, I'm new at this and trying to facilitate the best I can. So I apologize if I've offended people in the way that the conversation has gone. I think that, you know, it is a sensitive topic for everyone. And at least the way I've been trying to run this panel so far is to make it organic, because I think that different people are different places, so that, you know, Victor is different than Katrina, who's different than Yolanda. And so each person, I'm trying to allow each person to set the tone themselves, so that if they want to tell the story and they want to give a couple of brief details, then, you know, allow the panelists to do that. If Yolanda wants to go into more details, allow her to do that, because I feel that it's not being a good listener if we're just saying, oh, but you can't tell your story at all. I think I'm really hoping that this panel is more organic, that the individual panelists can set the tone and say what they want to say, you know. And sometimes I'm jumping in to clarify, because sometimes folks, you know, may not know all the details of the story. So it's kind of like, oh, just to clarify, this is my follow-up question. Just to clarify for me as a listener, oh, wait, I'm trying to put it into context. So I understand, I apologize, I understand that people might be very upset. I really am genuinely trying to allow folks to just, you can tell your story or not, and allow panels to set the tone of how, you know, how they want to run it. And so, you know, if you want to go back to you, Victor, let's talk then specifically about, you know, just to lighten the tone, let's talk about when you met Nissa, in terms of, you know, when we're talking about building solidarity, figuring out how to support each other, a lot of it is also just to be, you know, friendships and personally knowing people, you know, and forming friendships and finding ways to work together towards shared goals, towards, you know, if we all want to fight for, you know, police brutality, how's that work? So, you know, let's talk about, you know, forced trajectories. Let's talk about your work there. And also, you met Nissa. Oh, sorry, that's right. We haven't actually done all the intros yet. So we had Victor. Let's go to Katrina next. So Katrina, if you don't mind, you may choose to share or not share as much as you want, if you would like to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of information about your background.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna just take a couple of minutes. So my name is Katrina Johnson, and on June 18th, 2017, my cousin Charleena Lyles called the police for help to report a burglary at her home. Shortly after the police arrived, they shot her 7 times in front of her kids. And since that day, my life has never been the same again. I went to school to be a nurse and don't do anything in nursing anymore. I realized shortly after she had been murdered that I wasn't going to achieve justice in the way I thought that it would come, as in someone's going to go to jail and stuff like that. And we still don't really have the answers. 3 years later, we're still waiting. We're actually being, families are being sued by the city of Seattle right now because they don't really want to tell families what happened to their loved ones. And so after that, I just had to decide to turn my pain into purpose and fight for legislative changes and things like that. We did end up getting a law passed called I-940, the first police accountability law in the nation, requiring police officers to render first aid when they shoot our loved ones so that they don't bleed out and die, like Delrawn. And also to actually for them to even be charged. I mean, there has been over 300 killings, murdered in Seattle, and not one officer has ever been charged. So, and it's de-escalation training and things like that. So, I mean, that moment when they killed my cousin kind of catapulted me into activism. And that's just kind of where I am. I mean, I currently work for the Public Defender Association, so I actually manage police officers, diverting people out of the criminal justice system into community-based resources instead of jail and prosecution. So, yeah, that's kind of like the short and sweet version of what I do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the introduction. At this point, thank you very much for the opportunity to moderate this conversation. I'm actually going to hand it over to Sam and have him continue the conversation. We still need to introduce Nissa, and thank you everyone for your patience and for your understanding. And, you know, I'm deeply sorry, you know, if folks felt traumatized or offended by the way things have gone so far. I want everyone to really, you know, focus on solidarity and focus on how Asian Americans can support African Americans in this time of police brutality and institutionalized racism. So go ahead, Sam. Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, thank you, Valerie. And I just want to really thank, you know, Victor, Yolanda, Katrina. Thank you for being here. You know, and paying this emotional tax to be here. And you know, Victor, you and I have been messaging on the side, and I appreciate the strength that it takes for you to be here. As AAPI, as people who are trying to be allies, it is not our place to take up this much space in this conversation. Our place is to listen. Our place is to show up, and create action. And I know that, you know, you three, are incredibly strong and brave for doing this. But I just also want to be cognizant of those who are listening, who are not at that place. And as an Asian American, I'm just so ashamed because I saw that cop who looked like me, part of my community. And he just stood there. And he just really like exemplified everything, every stereotype that was been said. And I'm just so sorry.
You know, Sam, I just want to say that, you know, it was really hard to see those things, but the reality of the situation is, it's really not a Black or white thing or an Asian thing. It's really about evil. It's really about pure evil that is happening. It's just manifesting into this thing that brings about race, because they know that that's the way in which they can do this to people. But I really think it's like spiritual warfare, to be perfectly honest. But it's just manifesting in the way in which it looks like, oh, this person was being racist, or this, you know what I mean? I think that that's just a ploy to really cover up what is actually really happening. But yes, people are dying. Black people are dying every day. And Indigenous folks die at a higher rate than Black folks. And white folks get killed by the police too. And, you know, there are Black officers that are killing us. You know, that's why I'm saying that blue is bigger than any race. That is, that is it. They are the race that is killing us, the blue. So it doesn't matter whether you are white, Black, rich, or poor. If you don't wear a badge and it says SPD, police department, you are subject to be killed.
Can I add to?
Yes, sir.
You know, I wanted to say too, in my case, the officer who murdered my brother was Black. He was Caribbean, you know, and it was so unfortunate because the crazy thing is we actually had to fight the stigma of folks saying, and this hurt the most. People were telling us, oh, your family's gonna get justice anyway because the officer's Black. I'm like, that doesn't make me feel better. That does not make me feel better. I don't
No, and I had to hear it's a Black on Black crime.
Yeah,
even the NAACP wouldn't touch it because they said, well, isn't that a Black on Black crime? I said, no, that's blue on citizen.
Yeah. So I say that, Sam, because now I really want to get to the hard questions now, honestly, right? Because what you said, you acknowledge, but I do want my sister to introduce herself though, Nissa. You didn't get her intro. But right when we get there, I want to tell you, but I want to get to those hard questions because you acknowledging that as an Asian American, you're not doing enough to help means so much. And it's not only you, it's not only Asians, it's not only Spanish, it's not only white, it's Black people too.
Right.
So what Katrina just said, we are up against blue. That's why these protests and these hundreds of thousands of folks that's out, I need everybody to stay out. We need to continue to fight. And this right here is a start for me as a unified front. So yeah, let's keep it going, man. Let's keep it going. We're gonna get to the good stuff. But like I said, a few of us, our loved ones were murdered by black officers too. So it's not just white and black, you know?
Yes, sir. And also, yes, Nissa, you've been sitting patiently, and I'd like you to introduce yourself now. You're muted.
Okay. Peace, everyone. This is kind of a dream come true for me for many years now. I've been fighting against police brutality for the last 11 years. And actually, a lot of my comrades are Chinese American in the streets with me. Steve Yip, longtime October 22nd Coalition member. Age Patterson, my brother out in LA. We have a new brother now, Devin Ward, out in LA doing this great work with Mass Liberation, which is working on liberating our people from jails and prisons. Kathy Chang, who served many, many families and still continue to serve families in New York. I learned a lot from them as a young person. And every single one of those folks Chinese American, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm trying to think of what I can say about my work and then also make it impactful so that people can take the most out of this conversation. We need to stop making assumptions about people when we see the color of their skin. To me, that's like kind of number one. Like, we can't make assumptions by how people look, even by how people act. Everybody here is a student and everyone here is a teacher, and we all have something to teach each other. But in this movement in particular, we lead by listening, very much so. And something very powerful happens when you listen to an impacted family story. It's I'm trying not to get emotional because it is a very emotional topic. And when I get emotional and I see my brother Victor and Yolanda and Katrina tell their story, I'm just like, wow, like it's like the power and emotional strength that they have to continuously tell their stories over and over again in order to create that collective transformation that we all as human beings need to hear, is part of our work, right? Because when this happens to your family, you're just so overwhelmed with trauma. But, these families, they overcome that trauma. They're not victims, just like Victor said, and I want to lift up, see, this is what happens. I get choked up. I want to lift up Cynthia Howell right here. She is the niece of Albert Sproul. She passed, she passed 3 years ago, not too long ago, in the 3rd year anniversary of her death. She was the niece of Alberta Sproul, who was killed by NYPD in Harlem in 2003. She had this vision of impacted families coming together, and not just to focus on mothers, not just to focus on Black folks, because the thing is that not every mother is going to emerge and step up for their son, and that has nothing to do with like, we shouldn't judge that, you know what I mean? Like, in these cases, sometimes different people emerge. Sometimes best friends emerge. Sometimes sons emerge. Sometimes sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles emerge as the speakers for the dead. And we need to listen to those stories and see how we can fight together collectively, not just Black folks, not just Asian folks, not just, you guys get my point, but how we can all together collaborate and fight this together. And I want to speak on this issue because I feel like it's the place of Victor and Katrina and Yolanda to talk about, the issue of family members being turned away right now. A lot of families right now are hurting. We have Native families that are hurting and crying. We have brown families. We have Black families too have been turned away from these protests to speak in these spaces when they're feeling this collective trauma of seeing another Black man be killed on TV. And, you know, I really want them to speak about that. So I'm just going to stop it. Well, let me just also talk about our work, because that's where you can see a lot of these stories. ForceTrajectory.com is a project that my partner was supposed to be on this panel. Started 11 years ago, back in 2009. It is a multimedia project that illuminates the narratives of families who have been impacted by police violence, specifically homicide. When we started this project, I noticed, the reason why I started the project was because I noticed that the first family I met that was impacted by police homicide, which was a very, very brutal case. I mean, the case of Kenny Lazo, Presente, out in Suffolk County, Long Island. He was killed in 2008, April 16th. The story that family told me was completely opposite to what the local media was putting out. They criminalized him. They called him a drug suspect. They said that he had drugs in his system. He had a chance, you know what I mean? So it's different from, like, why do we know the case of Sean Bell and the case of George Floyd and the case of, trying to think of someone else, Amadou Diallo. You know, these cases that got, and nothing against the family, it's not their fault that this happened. These cases got national attention because of the media, because of the way we live in a capitalist system that exploits human beings for profit. And the journalism is mainstream journalism is no different. So the more sensational the story can be potentially, that's why we know these names. But we have to remember that there's like thousands and thousands and probably millions of names and people that have completely been erased and disappeared off this planet due to the white supremacist system, which the police are the guardians of. You see what I'm saying? So yes, all cops are blue. In fact, there's actually research that shows that Black cops are more vicious towards their own people. And that comes from the fact that when in enslaved times, the slave master wasn't going to, you know, spend their time committing all this violence. They had a slave driver to do that. And that person was Black, right? They didn't want to commit the violence. They were just like, no, you commit the violence for me, right? That's capitalism. And so we have to understand that the race of the officer doesn't matter. He represents a white supremacist system, and he's going to push down the communities that threaten the white supremacist system, the Native American community, because it's their land, the African American community, because they brought them over to do the work, you know, and to keep people down so that whiteness can arrive, like thrive. So white supremacy is literally about holding other communities down in order to thrive, by not allowing others to thrive. And I think once we understand those systems and how that works, we have a better idea of how to fight this collectively. So that's all I want to say. And thank you for having me on this very panel. And I really do hope we continue this discussion.
Thank you, Nissa. That was really powerful. And yeah, this is not easy. This entire conversation is not easy. But I think, you know, as Asian Americans, like, we have a degree of privilege in that we get to say that it's not easy without fear for our life. And so with that, you know, I'd like to also introduce our final panelist, Kenny Tran from I Am Not a Virus.
Hi, everyone. On behalf of I Am Not a Virus, I am so sorry from the bottom of our hearts that we forced you to relive this. Talking to Monica Sook last week, I think trauma porn is something that's just so incredibly exploited, and we are deeply sorry. For us and for my own life's work as an MPA student, I just want to move forward and find solutions. I want to make sure that these losses do not go unheard, that we rise up together in solidarity, that we never forget these names, and we keep pushing forward. For me, I always want to channel people similar to Richard Aoki, who was a Black Panther and a Japanese American. We have to stand together against this. And again, like Nissa said, it's these forces of white supremacy that are keeping us down and weaponizing us against each other, as Leslie Honore so elegantly put yesterday in a panel as well. So I just want to say that I am grateful for being here. I am grateful and I am happy to be listening, and I will amplify your voices, and I will always advocate for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. And finally, I'll introduce myself to everybody. My name is Sam Hyun. I am the Executive Director for the Korean American Citizens League of New England. I am a commissioner on the Massachusetts Asian American Commission. And to all the viewers who are watching, thank you. And this conversation is incredibly important to have. And I just wanted to, especially given that Katrina, you really didn't get to talk much. And was there a very specific message that you really wanted to emphasize today? I really wanted to make sure that your voice was elevated in this conversation.
I mean, I do a lot of talking, so I'm okay. It's really not, I mean, we're all families. Like, it doesn't matter which family is elevated more than the other, you know what I mean? We all got each other's back at the end of the day. I mean, I was just ready to just jump into like some of the hard questions of how we can actually start, building a better relationship. And on the premise that we are not always going to agree on everything, but that doesn't mean that we can't still build together, because they want us infighting with each other to take it as a distraction, you know what I mean? So they got us caught up in the oppression Olympics of who's had it worse, Black people, Asian people, whatnot, when we need to figure a way to come together as all people to really bolster the fight for change, right? And that's where we have to get to. And that's what I'm finally seeing happening with George Floyd's case. And that's why it just empowers families to continue to go. And because we have been out there on the front lines for so long, we are just, and everybody's like, we're ready to fight, but like, it's a war of attrition, right? Nothing comes fast and easy, and you have to just stay at it. And we are just glad that you guys are finally joining us on the front lines, that we've been out here for so long. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm not tired, because I'm tired and I'm traumatized and I'm re-traumatized, but yet and still I get up because I have a duty. And what people don't really understand is we're fighting for our loved ones, but we're really not. They're already dead. We are out here fighting for you guys so that you will never know the pain that we feel. And we are glad that you guys are finally joining us to help save your life, because we don't want any more members in this family. Because the cost to get in, literally, is your loved one's blood. And we don't want any more. And so we are welcoming what we can do collectively so that we can build on what's happening today.
And so with that being said, Yolanda, what would you like to see from the Asian American community?
This first part here, with you acknowledging that there's a difference, that that the operation is not working well together, that's very important to me, because the first part of change is acknowledging that something needs to be changed. Your support, you're standing behind us, you're promoting our efforts. I can tell you, in 2010, I spent more time away from home than at home. I was literally leaving my house every 2 weeks to go somewhere else to speak, to go stand with some family, to attend some sort of forum where we were trying to get the information out there. So, I mean, don't just hear us, tell somebody. Because you can get to someone we can't reach. You can get them to understand, to sympathize, and maybe in the back of their head say, I might not be doing enough. Let me see what else I can do. I'm gonna say with Post, we are a licensed nonprofit, but 99% of the things that we do comes literally straight out of our pockets. And it's not about money, because Post doesn't take money to keep. We take money to go help somebody, to you know, whatever it is they need that we can do, we try to help them. And I don't have a problem with coming out of my pocket for it, because I already know what it's like to be there. I already know what it's like to say, well, damn, I didn't have insurance on my baby, so now how am I going to bear it? And then to get those exorbitant bills that they say, oh, no, you got to pay this up front. There's nothing like saying, I want to bury my child. And they say, well, you got to come up with $3,500 today, or it's not going to happen. We need people out there to stand with us when we get tired. Let us lean on you for a minute. You know, every then and again, step up and say, well, you know what? I'm going to take the front line. You go ahead and stand on. I got this. We need somebody to tell us, I got this for a minute.
Right.
Let us breathe.
So you mean like calling and just checking in and letting us, you know, letting you vent? Like, are those, would you, you know, Victor, you know, would you, because there are multiple questions coming in. It's like for Victor, it's like, what are the hard questions, right? Like, so like, how can me as an Asian American, how can I help you?
So I want to be brutally honest, right? And I hope folks don't get uncomfortable, but I know the hard conversation, it gets very uncomfortable. We need to talk about race as in cultural differences, right? And when we said earlier, I wanted to talk about how me and Nissa met. The reason why I said that, it is a funny story now because we're like in love with each other. Like, that's my sister, you know what I mean? Well, I'm going to be completely honest. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, right? I didn't grow up in a multicultural neighborhood. I didn't. It was predominantly Spanish and Black. But the Spanish, I want to say the Black folks were somewhat oppressed back then by the Spanish people because honestly, the Spanish folks, not like historically, naturally, they stick together. They protect their own. Versus when I was growing up, unfortunately, with Black folks, we were so much in competition with each other. If I seen a guy with a new jacket, I needed a new jacket. If he had new sneakers, I needed new sneakers. You know what I mean? But then when it came to the Asian culture, I'm a big Black guy. I'm 6'2" now, you know, about 280 pounds, and I've always been a big kid. I remember one day I was taking a J train to school, the D train to school out in Brighton Beach in Brooklyn, and there was a group of Asian folks getting on the train. I won't forget this. This is the first time I ever felt like my Blackness was a threat. They were standing there and someone was sitting down, and I was playing football at this time, and I had like my shoulder pads and stuff with my helmet in it, and it hit one of the ladies by accident, like just bumped her, you know? And she got so offended, and I was actually turned around and say sorry, and all 5 of them women clutched their purses and walked to the other end of the train. I didn't understand, but at that time I was kind of younger. I was a little retarded, you know, not retarded. I shouldn't use that word, sorry. But I was a little naive, so I laughed it off. But I didn't realize how much it affected me until I got older. And the one time I realized that I needed to stop thinking like that was the day I met Nissa. The day I met Nissa was my brother's memorial, the day after he died, 2 days after he died, excuse me. We did a vigil out there. Cynthia Howell came out there with some other families, impacted families from New York. I didn't know nothing about any of this world, nothing about the police brutality world whatsoever. Only thing on my mind was how are we gonna get money to bury my brother? That's it. So when we're throwing this vigil, I'm not gonna lie, I hated anybody with a badge at that moment in my life. And it was so many people in Brooklyn that knew my brother that came out, like literally, it was just nuts. It was just nuts. It was crazy. And I don't shy away from my past because it made me the man I am today. I was a gang member when I was younger. So I had a lot of gang members around. You know what I mean? We had the people like, yo, let's go handle business. And I said, no, that can't be the way. And Nissa came, and I'm so busy looking through the crowd for undercover cops and whatever. I don't want them there. And then I see this little Asian girl. And Cynthia's standing, and I'm talking to her, and there's nothing but Black women here, and then there's a little Asian girl behind them with a big-ass camera. And I'm like, who the hell is this? I'm thinking she's infiltrating, and I turned around so fast, I almost hit her. And then I was just like, I don't know, Nissa, you want to finish the story, but it was that day, I don't even think we really talked. Like, when Cynthia introduced me, I kind of like brushed it off and laughed a little bit. But in the back of my head, I really didn't care who she was. I just had to deal with her because somebody else brought her there. But seriously, my thought process, the way I was raised, or the lack of knowledge, or I was honestly raised that Asian Americans think they're better than Black people. You know what I mean? I was raised that way. I was raised to think that Asians thought we were lazy and didn't respect us. You know what I mean? But I always had this kind of disdain, and that's personal. That's, you know, I don't know if every Black person had to experience that, but it was disheartening. But I know after I got over that and I understood and I hung so, and not just Nissa, she's not my only Asian American friend, guys. You know, I'm pretty popular these days. But it was very eye-awakening, honestly. And I'm talking about, I'm in my 30s already when this happened. So imagine how many other folks aren't giving themselves that chance. And honestly, how many Asian Americans are still clutching their purses when they see a Black person. So when I say a hard question, there are cultural misunderstandings. There truly are. And I don't know if it goes both ways. That's a hard question, because I also know in the Asian community, you guys are very big on family. Very, very big. When it comes to breaking bread, that's a thing. It has to happen. So how do we accept each other? How do we continue to educate another generation? How do we show folks that it's okay to not understand, but be able to ask a question without wanting to offend people? It may not sound like a hard question, but it truly is hard. Because I guaranteed you, if I said the only thing I knew about Asian Americans was the movie from Crazy Rich Asians, it would be fucking offensive. Honestly. So anyways, I don't know. I just want to start a conversation because I'm just as lost as everybody else, man.
No, I hear you, brother. And I think there is a lot of misconceptions. I think, you know, it's like the fact of like Asian Americans, like we're not a monolith, you know, like we're not all like me, East Asian, more paler skin. Like there are Southeast Asians, South Asians who are dark skinned, you know, and data supports that the Southeast Asian community is disproportionately more disadvantaged than East Asians like me. And then even when you disaggregate that data, even among the East Asians, is a very small percentage at the top that, again, disproportionate. And it's like, I feel like we've never been able to tell our own history, right? We, like Indian Americans got lumped in with Asians because white people were like, you know what, you guys are all in Asia. Boom. That's easy to do. And I feel like there is so much, and then like East Asians, we come here and we don't even know Black history. So much of us don't know Black history. So much of us don't know, you know, then like, I don't want to blacksmith here, but like, you know, just from start to finish, we don't know shit, you know? And I feel like, you know, like you're saying, when we break bread like this, we're like, oh, we like to eat, we like to drink, we like to party. Like,
but
so
we have to get past the them and us. You know, right. There's only human beings. I taught my kids and I teach my grandkids the same thing. It doesn't make a difference if a person's Black, white, polka dot, or stripe. If they treat you good, they good. If they treat you wrong, make sure they only get a one-hit wonder. But we have to be able to have a conversation and you just look at me as a person. Don't look at whether or not my eyes look a certain way, my hair looks a certain way, my body smells a certain way. You know, am I gonna lean more towards getting some ribs, or do I wanna get some teriyaki chicken or whatever? It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, and I hate that term, but anyway, if I bleed red blood, you're gonna bleed red blood. If I take my last breath, you can take your last breath. Dead is dead. And people need to understand we need each other in order to survive. And Katrina is right. We are fighting evil. And I mean we, all of us, we are fighting evil. If you got an ounce of concern in you, you are fighting evil. So you need to be more concerned with that than how the person looks. You know, we got to all do it together. Because here's the thing. I'm going to give you a scenario. You're on the street walking one way, I'm walking the other. We both come upon somebody who's on the ground. They're bleeding. We're not certain if they're going to make it. So if I start CPR, that means you got to hold wherever they're bleeding, right? So we can keep this person alive. If I'm doing CPR, you got to call 911 because it's only us on the street. How are we going to save this person? If I got a car to get them to, I need you to help me get them to it. But if you're standing there saying, well, they're not of my race, you're not human then. You need to be off this planet. Because that's the only people, that's the only ones that are here, human. We come in a beautiful hue for a reason. But you can't change it. And that's my problem with the Caucasians that act like they're better than somebody, you know, and it's only in their head. Because the fact of the matter is, none of us got to pick what color skin we came in, let alone what sex we came in, what time of era we came in. But we all can choose to work together. And we have to be concentrating on the choices that we can make instead of worrying about the ones that was made for us.
Yolanda, there was a question that was asked specifically about what were the resources that you were referring to?
If you know somebody, okay,
Like
here's the thing.
Support
system.
Yes.
Okay, I'll say this. Okay, we're looking for headquarters here in Detroit. Maybe you know somebody who has property, and you know that they are looking for a tax write-off, philanthropy thing, whatever. You could put us in contact with them, and they say, okay, yeah, that's a good cause. We'll do that. You're a nonprofit. We can write that off and get our little tax thing. Maybe you know somebody who can do grant writing. Maybe you know somebody who can facilitate getting transportation or food or, you know, counseling for somebody. Anything. Everybody knows somebody that knows something and knows how to get something done. It's called networking. The value of the network is you help me, maybe I'll be able to help you later on, or maybe you just feel good because you helped. You know, people always want to look for that reciprocation. Well, I'm not going to get nothing for helping them. Maybe you just feel good about yourself for a damn change. You don't always have to have something come into your pocket. I'm not looking for something to come into my pocket. I'm looking for a way to help as many people as I can. So that's what we're talking about with resources. We got, okay, attorneys that can work pro bono. We have psychiatrists and psychologists that can work pro bono, social workers that can work pro bono. Sometimes doing the work simply for the love of the people is more rewarding and makes more sense than going for the check. Because when you're doing it for the check, you're just going through the motions. It's those real people that we want to be in touch with. And that's in every avenue of what we do.
Right. And I do think it's important for me to acknowledge that I also do want to apologize to Valerie. I think that in my emotions, I definitely was, definitely harsh and rude. And I don't want to knock her down. And, especially as someone in my community and someone who's trying. And I do have to take, and I have to take accountability for that. I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. And I just wanted to state that before we move forward. And Yolanda, I did not mean to cut you off there either. I'm sorry if I did.
Sam, we talked about ways in which, like, things that we could possibly do, like, as far as Asian Americans, maybe, when you see folks doing things that are wrong, but you feel that certain comfort, like, can we call out anti-Blackness?
Of course.
Can you be bold
Please
enough
do.
to
Call us out.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's where we have to get to. Like, being bold enough to stand and call out anti-Blackness, right? Being, and, some of us have been raised different ways. I mean, in some families and some cultures, it was not okay, to bring a Black person home because your family might disown you.
Right.
Like, let's name that, and so, and figuring out a way forward with, our elders and things like that, because, things are a little bit different now. But those things are still real for people, right? Or, Black people saying, I only want Black kids, like, I mean, it happens. And until we start having those conversations, like, I mean, I think that is the crux of where we have to get to.
Right.
Can I add to that, Katrina? because something else that always bothered me too is in the chats. I was reading some of the chats too, and you know, I not trying to single you out, Sam. I just want to use it as an example. You just took accountability, right? You were emotional about whatever you felt at that moment. You were passionate about it. That actually comes into what we've been dealing with for years too, because we've all been oppressed. You know, we've all been oppressed in one way or another. But I think sometimes the issue is it's like we're fighting of who's been oppressed more. You know what
The
I
oppression
mean?
Olympics, man.
Exactly. That's what I see a lot of times with a lot of races. You know what I mean? And really, what Sam just did there, taking that accountability, sometimes you have to step back and get away from yourself. And for families too, you know, we've all been getting questions asked us, oh, how do you feel about looting? Oh, they're gonna burn it the fuck down. And I'm sitting here like, well, that's not gonna change anything for none of my family. And I've told people, I don't condemn or condone, but the problem with that is I'm not taking a stance there. Because there's mom and pop stores that I know personally, family members and friends who bust their ass to get that damn store going. They don't have the same type of insurance as these corporate places. You know what I mean? So sometimes I have to step back and really think about how are these people feeling when they're looting. We all know some people could be looting for sport. Some people could just be looting because they're opportunists. And then some people that's looting because we're in the middle of a damn pandemic and they haven't had a job for 3 months. So they see that opportunity as well. So I'm trying to put all this into context because when we look at this pandemic, we've all been affected by it, right? All of us, we've all been affected by it. We've all been shut out into our homes for X amount of time, some longer than others. But now we have this, George Floyd happens. Now everyone has this issue to come out to. But what are we coming out about? What's the message behind that? And I think this, when I say let's start working together, this is how we start. We can build the message because when we talk about racial disparity, it's not only about police brutality. If the Asian American community is being oppressed as well, how do we make a list of demands that work for everybody? Because I can't say let's unify, but I'm only putting my issues at the forefront and saying, hey, you guys got to support me. No. We have to meet together. So I think that's something that a lot of us don't do. So Sam, I commend you for taking accountability there because now, yes, let's, you know, if anybody felt slighted or whatever, you laid a space to start a conversation again. And I hope everybody on this platform understands that we're laying a space to start a conversation. I don't have the answer. I'm going to be honest with you. I truly don't have the answer. But I also know we have to step out of ourselves sometimes and put everybody's issues together so we're fighting together. Right. I don't need you to support me. How do we support each other?
Right.
Can I say something? And Victor, I really want to, so I just want to quickly finish the story of how we met, because what had happened was I'm a photographer, I'm a photojournalist. And, you know, when Delrawn was killed, there were hundreds, I mean, people were really, really upset. It was a very, very, very tense environment. And I knew I was in a Black neighborhood and I was, you know, the only Asian there. But Cynthia, you know, she was just like, come. And I'm just like, no, I gotta hide my camera. I can't be taking pictures out here because as a photojournalist, we have to think about how we show up all the time. I've done work in Haiti. My partner is Haitian, you know, Haitian American, gone to Haiti many times. That's a Black nation. I show up as white in that nation. And Haiti is the most exploited because it's a free Black nation. It's the revolution that the first free Black nation in the Western Hemisphere. They fought for their freedom and they've been punished literally by the international community ever since they won their freedom. So definitely study the Haitian Revolution. It is one of the most powerful histories of human beings, period. So I say all this to say, because as a photojournalist, we have to think about how we show up in communities, especially with cameras, because, you know, photojournalists are merchants. You know, we take pictures and we make money off of it. That's not the kind of photojournalist I am. So when Cynthia dragged me and she was like, come, we're going to meet the family. I was like, I got to hide my camera. They're going to hate me. You know, they're going to just, and so when Victor saw me, he was just, I mean, his hand was like huge, about to like swipe my camera out of my hand. Cynthia blocked him and saved me. That's why we laugh about it now, because it's kind of funny. But I'm surprised that, you know, I mean, Victor has a resilience to laugh because that was one of the most, difficult moments in his life. So we have to think about how we show up. We have to think about, okay, I am a white face or I am an Asian face. Where am I? There's people that are around us that are darker skinned. We know that white supremacy is rooted in colorism. We know that. So, and we have to acknowledge that people are human, right? We're all human. It's just skin color that's different, but we're living in a crisis, a global crisis of white supremacy, where we know and acknowledge that darker skinned people are being targeted constantly and being, literally they're at the boot heel of white supremacy. So how can we as allies support? Well, lead by listening, get involved with multicultural events, make a new friend. If you've never stepped outside your race, get to know other folks, get to know their histories, learn their personal histories, learn their cultural histories, etc. And then I have to get going because I have a meeting, but Victor, actually, if you can please talk about what's happening on Saturday, because none of us are sleeping because of this. And I want you to talk about it because you're the one that was like, I'm going to make this happen. And that's why I'm going to call you a leader in this movement. So thank you all for having me. It was an honor to share this space with you. I hope we do it again. Thanks again. Peace.
Victor, got to get to you, man. I mean, what is happening Saturday?
So it's not just me, all of us, Katrina's here as well. We collectively have not been sleeping. It's just I'm in a different time zone than everybody else. So yeah, Saturday, I'm not gonna lie, unifying is powerful. It's been a while since we actually got together and really did something big. And we said to ourselves, we're in the middle of a pandemic, people are getting hurt, things are happening. Vegas was kind of like, I know it's not a central location in the middle for all of us, but it's a place that it's hot out there. Let's go chill. So we said to ourselves, let's come out and support other families right now. Let's show our face. Let's be on the front side of this. Because again, we know it started for George Floyd, it kind of amped it up, but we know it's bigger than that. But we don't see any impacted families kind of leading this outside of the folks that's been affected. So we said to ourselves, we know our voice carries kind of, folks will follow us. Folks know that we've been grieving and dealing with pain so long, they want to support. So we know how powerful our voices can be in the situations like this. So Saturday, we are flying out to Vegas, about 27 family members. We've been able to raise close to $10,000 in 2 days, which I don't even know how the hell we did it, but we did it. And we're out there to send a message. We're working on messaging for a national platform. We want the families to come together because people are asking us, what do we want out of this? What's the reason for this protesting? What's going to be the end game to this? It's not just for the officers to get locked up, but how do we articulate that? You get what I'm saying? And like I said earlier, how do we articulate that in a manner that encompasses everyone? Because if we made it just about us, we'll be doing everybody an injustice. We'll be having another call doing a similar conversation like this because the impacted families didn't give a shit about nobody else but themselves. So we're trying to be inclusive. So Saturday is a big day. We have a press conference that we're putting out. We're doing a press release. And our messaging is stay with the protest. Stay with the protest. Don't quit because the officers are now charged. We don't know what's going to happen. It's still a lot to go. Now they have to be indicted on the charges. Now they have to go through a trial if they don't cop out. Then they have to be found guilty. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part comes when the sentencing happens. Because we can honestly be slapped in the damn face. And a lot of people don't realize that. Everyone's been cheering and jumping for joy saying that, oh yeah, he got it. Wayne Isaacs completely lied in my brother's case. We went through trial. That was the first time. It took me almost a month and a half to tell my family we're gonna win. Every time they asked me, I said, I'm not doing that to myself. And lo and behold, and I'm gonna tell you how powerful this meeting is, because the reason why we lost is because the jurors did not understand the definition of duty to retreat in New York State. I promise you. We laid this case out. I worked hand in hand with the special prosecutor who's Attorney General in New York City. They had a solid case. Till this day, I work with the Attorney General who's helping other families connect with them. So Saturday is so big for us because it's not controlling the message, it's having a collective message. We're going to meet other families. We're going to meet with Black Lives Matter folks because we understand that they're not all about only police brutality. They're about the social injustices. They're about the racial disparity. So what's your message? How do we combine those messages to continue to do a united front? I would love to do the same here. Any Asian American caucuses, whatever. What do you guys need? How do we include that in our messaging? So now we're all pumping the same thing. We've got families nationally. You send me a social media toolkit, I'm blasting it out to almost 250 families across the nation. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, Saturday.
Victor, how can we help? How can we help? How can I help?
So Kenny, I want to come to you and be like, you know, what are things that we need to do, right? Like, because we need to understand the liberation. Until Black people are liberated, Asian people will never be liberated either. We will continue to be oppressed as long as Black people are oppressed in this country. And
I think
we need to, like, Kenny, how can we talk to our Asian American family who don't understand? How can we talk to our friends about people who don't understand and that still say all lives matter?
You got to educate and you got to call out anti-Black rhetoric when you see it. I think it's a difficult conversation, and those are the hard questions, right? Like Victor had mentioned before, you know, like a lot of people, how can we help? We can start helping by educating the folks around us. I think that's incredible. You know, like so many people have got up to the podium and started talking. One of my favorite people to listen to is Killer Mike from RTJ. And today he just went on ESPN and said, we can end racism in 20 years if we wanted to. It starts with education. It ends with education. And we talk about the historical matters about racism and privilege in this country. People never pay respect to people like Mildred Loving, right? Mildred Loving was persecuted endlessly because she was in interracial, she was the first interracial marriage in America. And it is because of that that we do not like, that we today are allowed to be the intercultural, amazing place that we are. As flawed as we are, we have that privilege. And it's because of the Black contributions to this country. We have to pay homage, and we definitely have to call out anti-Black racism. And I see a couple of questions. I think you definitely have to call it out when it's a person of color. Anti-Black rhetoric happens between people of color all the time. White supremacy has been used to weaponize each other and pit us in this gladiator ring. You know, like this power dynamic of, you know, oh, I am Asian, therefore I am this. It's a podium. It is a power tool. We have to dismantle it together, work together, and fight this injustice. I think that Yolanda said it the best. I dream of a day that, you know, one day we could think about like walking down the street and not viewing each other for our race. But I think until that day comes, we have to be color conscious of the history and the burdens that come with it. And as Asian Americans, we have that privilege, that stance. And if we don't use it, we're doing the world an injustice.
I couldn't agree more, Kenny. We absolutely got to stand up. It's like, we got to speak out, and it's uncomfortable. And I've had people ask me, like, Sam, like, what should I do? What's like a message of hope? And it's more of
Letters for Black Lives. Letters for Black Lives is an incredible website. It is translated to so many different languages because you know what? You got to meet the people where they are. If you got Latinx members of your family who have anti-Black rhetoric, print that out and slap it everywhere. If you have Vietnamese family, Chinese family, Korean family, whatever, print it and slap it everywhere. Share it on your feed. There are so many different forms of activism out there, you know? So we're all on the same road together. It doesn't matter. It's all that matters is that we keep that foot on the gas, baby.
Kenny said, I have a question for you guys, and maybe even some of the participants can chime in as well, or the attendees, right? I know we're talking a lot about, you know, what Asian American folks can do, and I'm not even speaking about just Asian American. I'm speaking about a lot of cultures, you know what I mean? Or races, rather. But what kind of misconceptions have you guys seen, or what things, like, what would stop you from reaching out or getting involved if you didn't know? You know what I mean? Like, for instance, you guys don't know me. You know, we just got connected on the live. Hopefully we'll connect. Now we're great friends, right? But seriously, like, think about it. Like, I know some of you guys live in California. I know there's been looting and things like that happening out there in San Jose Valley, things like that. Tell me some things, like, how can we understand the Asian American community also? Because I don't ever want to be in a predicament where I'm slighting someone that wants to help, but I might have done something that kind of, okay, no, I can't go. You get what I'm saying? Just like how Nissa said, she almost didn't come because it was a big Black community. And I'm glad she did because we're best of friends. So tell me, like how it goes both ways. You know, what do we need to do to be involved? Because yes, we're all oppressed, and I know that.
Right. Yeah, for sure, man. I think first is like Asian Americans, we're not a monolith. You know, we speak. There's 19 different countries predominantly that are here in this country, and we don't share a common language. Literally, like I think that's one of the biggest issues, that we just don't have solidarity within the Asian American community, and we haven't had conversations with each other. We don't talk about the inter-race racism that exists within the Asian American community. We don't talk, like we literally just cannot communicate, and I think that's starting to happen now, right? Like East Asians, like like the Koreans are super racist towards the Chinese, the Japanese. We're super racist towards Southeast Asians, South Asians, and like it goes all the way around. And like, and even with what happened in the LA riots, right, with Rodney King, and why was it that the Black community was so angry towards the Korean community to burn it down and cause $400 million in damages, and 2,300 businesses, were burned to the ground. And there was so much, in my opinion, is not understanding each other and never having communicated, and just so many misconceptions. And like right now, and I wish we got to this much earlier, and that's on me. I need to take responsibility for that as the moderator. I definitely could have done a better job, but we should have been talking about taking accountability and action steps. So an action step, A, read Ibram Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist. Straight up, like just how to be an anti-racist. Read Black history, read books and educate yourself. And then also talk to Black people. Literally go, like we're having this conversation right now, talk to Black people. Like rid yourself of this irrational fear that Black people are inherently scary. Like just talk to, I think when we continue to have these sorts of conversations.
But also don't throw people away. You can't throw people away when they make mistakes, and understand that everybody has trauma and every community has trauma. And sometimes we have to get together so that we can hash that trauma out so that it doesn't keep us from moving together.
Thank you, Katrina. And again, I just, I need to apologize for what I did. Like that was unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. We need to be calling people in, especially people who have just joined the conversation. It just came to their consciousness that they are now aware of their own anti-Blackness or maybe their own misconceptions. So, Yolanda, I'm a little hesitant to ask because you're driving. Are you comfortable?
Yeah, I'm driving. I'm good. I multitask all the time.
This boss lady, man.
What is it?
Do you also feel like there's a lot of agree with Victor that there's a lot of misconceptions or?
Yeah, there are. You get the misconception of, okay, because the African American man is big and tall, that he's not intelligent. He's just a good brute. He can play sports, he can move things, he can build things, but an intelligent conversation you're not going to be able to have with him. That's not a fact. That's a conception that's made by people who think less of themselves, and they're putting their, what's my word? They're finding the faults in themselves in other people, and they project them that way. You have people who think because the woman is heavy set, all she knows how to do is cook, or she might be a good sewer or something like that. She may be the most intelligent person in the room, but it's not going to be known because you're looking at what you think you know about a person. I treat everybody the same across the board. First time I meet you, you're going to get the real me. You don't have to worry about later on. You're going to get whatever Yolanda is, and I expect to receive whatever Sam is when I meet you. We need to get over thinking we know everything about somebody. You don't know anything about a person. All you know are the basics. They live and they breathe. And everybody has a right to that one. But sitting up here thinking that it's gonna take time. We have to acknowledge that it's gonna take time to end these things and to change them. And we have to be responsible for them. Being negative and trying to tear somebody down, I'm gonna tell you, that don't make you stand taller. It makes you look dumber. And that's just a fact. I'm sorry about all this beeping. My daughter's texting me where she's at. But you have to be responsible for what you bring to the table, how you eat what is fed to you. And that means, when I say that, I'm talking about the information that the person is giving you, the conceptions, the ideas. You have to take your responsibility in that too. You can't just sit up there and say, well, because they Asian, you know, they're good at math. All Asians know karate. You know, no, they don't. And you don't know that. All you know is what you've seen on TV, and you think that what you saw on TV or in a movie was right. Try asking the person the question and getting to know them. You know, I had a psychology class, and I did a test on people, and it was really funny. And it revealed a whole lot about folks. Instead of asking them what their name was, their first name was, I asked them what their middle name was. And people were like, shh, that was a guarded question, you know, real secret. And they didn't want to reveal that because they felt that if they told me their middle name, then I would get to know them. You're gonna know a person if they tell you their middle name. And it's funny, it's real simple, but it works. And it breaks it down.
Right.
You know.
Yolanda, can I share something really quick? Because what you're saying too, it's two parts. I was just reading a comment here from Joy Chin, and I want to read it really quick because I want to bring something into context. So to answer Victor's question, speaking for myself, as a Taiwanese American in conversation, we are used to giving people a lot of silent space to share and process. Asking those questions to draw out our processing and pausing frequently helps. When we are in conversations with people who converse quickly, we can easily get lost, not because we wish to, but because we are still trying to catch up in a conversation. Our silence isn't because we don't want to engage. Our silence is because we want to respect what was first shared. That right there is what I'm talking about. I just learned something. I'm from New York. I talk fast as shit. I promise you I do. I talk 20 miles an hour. Even New Yorkers got to tell me to slow down, right? But I'm learning so much right now just from having a conversation. I don't even know when it's going to come into play sometime, but I'm learning. Sam, you just brought up a great point earlier. I suck in geography. I couldn't tell you my left and my right half the time. I don't know why. But the same way you just talked to me about how Northeast Asians and Southeast Asia, I hope I'm saying it right, you know, the different sides, it's like you live in different worlds, you know what I mean? So it's Black people go through that with colorism too. Colorism is a big thing for Black people. It truly is. So that's a comparison there. You get what I'm saying? We're going through the same things, but we don't know it because we don't have dialect. You know what I mean? So I'm just ecstatic to be in this space today. So many powerful things have been happening for us and families this week that I don't think anything's a coincidence. So I'm just telling anyone, anybody who doubts the power of unity, who doubts the power of a conversation, who doubts the power of reading a fucking article, don't doubt it, because this is living proof that we can be better people. We can be better people. I love these damn examples, man. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. And then I read another question saying, can Black people hold each other accountable for anti-racist stuff? I mean, anti-Asian. It happens. I swear to you, I was in Brooklyn one day. I'm telling you, I seen a Chinese, Asian. I don't know what he was. Asian delivery man. He almost got beat up by some kids. I fucking beat the kids up my damn self. Honestly, I'm gonna be fair. It really wasn't because I was trying to save somebody. I had some shit to get on my chest, and the opportunity presented itself. Sounds fucked up, but that's the God honest truth.
At least you're honest, man. We need honesty in this world, man.
But you know, Vince, but also, you know, where we can be stepping up in these times, especially with coronavirus and all that, like there has been an attack on the Asian community, you know, because our president is spewing that racist rhetoric out of the White House, and our Asian Americans need folks to stand up for them too. And some of us are guilty of feeding into that, calling it the Asian virus, the Wuhan, or whatever else, you know. And so we need to take time out to check ourselves if we want others to be in this with us. And I just have to say that because, you know, I know that, you know, for me, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to, you know, because I don't know what this virus is or what it looks like or who, you know what I mean? And that's checking my own biases. And, you know, if we want others to step up for us, we have to be willing to step up for them as well. And I know that they have been brutalized and all sorts of kind of things because of this coronavirus. I'm just saying.
Right, and I do think it's, you know, it's complicated because the model minority myth, like we basically are being held down, and then Black and brown people down are held even further. And part of it is like we have to recognize our privilege in this, right? We have to understand where our closer proximity to whiteness gives us more opportunities. It allows us, and when we lean into it straight up, like we can't deny that. We can't deny our anti-racism, anti-Blackness. We can't deny our anti-Asian racism, and we can't deny that when it benefits us, a lot of us will play into the white supremacy whiteness and bullshit, right? And then when it doesn't benefit us, and we were all calling for solidarity during the prejudice that was happening to us, like it, you know, we can't have it both ways. And I think it really comes down to, we need to stand up and speak up. And I can just speak for Sam Hyun. I cannot speak for anybody else. I cannot speak for Katrina. I cannot speak for Kenny. I cannot speak for Victor. I can only speak for me. And I think when we start to realize that, like, I need to be accountable for me and make sure that I am being a good ally, that I am checking myself, that I am growing, then I think that we'll slowly start to understand each other. And, you know, I know Kenny has some strong feelings about this, right? And Kenny, what can we do, man? Like, you know, as Asian Americans, like, we definitely got a lot of things to do. And like, in terms of within our community, externally, to the fight, solidarity wise, like, what else can we do?
Man, I think everyone just summed it up so beautifully, right? Like Katrina, like just talking about it, like John Cho wrote this beautiful piece, like Asian Americans and their existence in America has always been conditional, right? It's always been conditional of that totem pole of holding someone else down. And I think for us, we definitely got to just band together. And as Victor said, like this East Asian versus Southeast Asian versus West Asian kind of like theory, it's all a part of that. Colorism is something that happens across all cultures. I worked in Latin America for 2 years working for the government. And what I saw was that the whiter you were, the more power that you had. I think that across the globe, we have more in common than we do apart. All we had to do is just reach out and extend that olive branch. But a lot of us are afraid to, right, Victor, man? Like, I know, like, you asked these real tough questions. Like, how can we get across that? How do we start that conversation? Sometimes it's a leap of faith, man. You know, like, you got to just, like Yolanda said earlier, you look at a person as an individual and you talk about it. It's not about that minority collective, you know? Like, I think that, you know, in the media, what you see is that, you know, white people are treated as individuals, you know? Like, that's Rod, he's, like, he reads books, he does all this shit. And yet, you know, when we look at each other, we only see these stereotypes, these collectives. These are learned through our society, and we can unlearn them. We have to unlearn them. We have to learn to look at each other with pure eyes. Remember when we were all kids, and it doesn't matter what color your neighbor was. You were playing basketball with him, you were playing catch, and you didn't realize, you didn't even care what color he or she was. And that's what matters. We got to get there. We have to stand in solidarity together and realize that we don't have enemies between each other. Our common enemy is the entire system itself. And we got to change that. We have to re-educate ourselves as well as others in order to make an impact on this world. And that starts with us.
Can I ask another hard question? Because this is something that I've been dealing with as of lately, right? Especially based around the whole looting or not. You know, some black people saying, yeah, they got to do it, burn it to the ground so we can build it back up. To each his own. But what I realized, I actually made a couple enemies this week. I know I did. I think I'm a likable guy. A lot of people like me. But I'm not here to be liked anymore. Because you know why? I am holding myself accountable, but I'm damn sure going to hold everybody else accountable. Because if you push a message out that's counterproductive to what we're trying to do, it doesn't mean my message is right. It does not mean that. But your messaging has to be in line. So the hard question I want to ask is, I'm trying to put this in a way where it makes sense. Imagine you being at Sunday dinner with your whole family. And I'm sure everyone may go back and tell someone else about what an amazing panel they were just involved in. What if your counterpart or whoever doesn't agree with this? What if they don't agree with the tactics? What if they say, you know what, we have to worry about ourselves first? How do you handle that? Because now, not only are you trying to hold yourself accountable, but you're trying to teach somebody something, but how do you continue to teach through love when you're facing that adversary, when you're facing that negativeness? Because I see it a lot, honestly. I see it a lot. Even in this work, I see it. But We try our hardest to still love. We try our hardest to understand, but still hold them accountable. How do you guys see yourselves having these conversations? Like you said, colorism is across every race. You know, like you said, the whiter you are, the better job you get. Black people go through that shit all the time, right? But unfortunately, we're just black, so we're never gonna get the fucking job. But how do we face that hard person? How do we face that one person you know that you can, if you break through, they're gonna bring 100 more with them? How do you have that conversation?
I think it's all about.
Great question. Real quick, because we have 6 minutes left. I think, you know, if everyone
I appreciate you all. Thank you.
can add this to this conversation, you know, like, and so Victor, just one more time, you know, your question is, how can we talk to people who are like opposed to us, right? Even if it's family.
So, Victor, all I got to say, man, is like, we see this with the rhetoric out of the White House right now, right? You cannot fight hate with hate. You got to fight it with love, baby. What you got to do is talk about how we're all connected. We are currently a global village, man. You know, like, what our struggles are union. We are together right now. Like, what I see a lot of the times is, you know, like this rhetoric, especially like there are a lot of Black Vietnamese folks out there who don't get the time of day. I think we got to talk about love. We want to build a better world for all of us in the future, right? And in the future, no matter how hard, no matter how stubborn you want to be with all your hate, there's going to be a lot of, you know, like Black Asian Americans out there. There's going to be a lot of intergenerational kids. And if you don't want to think about them, you got to think about you. Think about the future you want to create for your kids. You got to think about the future that you want to see in the future. Do you want our world to be divided, just chunked and sectored into colors? No, man, we have to break through that. And like you said, like, if you break through the one person, you break through the rest. And how do you do that? You do that by educating yourself. You do that by acknowledging your own preconceived notions. I think a lot of the times, some of us hold ourselves on this social justice high horse because we know best. But that's absolutely wrong. We will never, ever achieve that, but we are all on this road together. It's an endless highway, and all we can do is keep trying, man. That's all we can do.
Right. It's a motto that I have, and I tell everybody is each one reach one, each one teach one. We can't teach everybody at the same time, but if we reach one person, they'll tell somebody else. It's just how it works, and that's the best tool that we have. There's no way that we can just sweep a whole room full of people and everybody understand, everybody get it, everybody is on the same page, on the same level. But if we get enough people to pick it up, they'll go back and catch those other ones for us. And we have to be willing to work together on that. It's not like, if I just, okay, I got my 5 people, I don't know about the rest of y'all. No, you got to keep it moving.
I think you also have to be willing to not just be comfortable. I think that oftentimes people won't say anything because they want to be comfortable, you know, but your integrity, you have to have some integrity with what you're doing, no matter, you know, what's going on, because at the end of the day, all you have is your integrity. And if somebody is doing something wrong, just like we want to call out the police, if somebody is doing something wrong and you don't call it out, then you're just as bad. You have to be willing to stand on your values, your morals, and your integrity. And people have to be accountable for what they say and what they don't say. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I just want, you know, this is going to be hard. This is going to be hard. Like, it is going to be painful. It is going to take a long time. It is going to, you know, potentially put a lot of friendships and family relationships at risk. And like me, I made so many mistakes today, you know, and I've made so many mistakes before. And I just, you know, for me, it's like, I can only speak for myself. And, you know, and there are moments where I spoke for the Asian community as a whole, and I don't have that right. You know, I just simply don't. I can only speak from my experience as a Korean American male. And try to do the best that I can for my actions. And I feel like, you know, with this, it's just understanding that, like, the feelings that we have of being uncomfortable, of being, you know, ashamed or guilty, or not really having any understanding of where to go from here. It's that's exactly how we should be feeling right now. You know, it's not that we're not going to see a brighter day tomorrow. It's not that we can't have solidarity today. but it's like understanding the moment, like time and place, right? It's like time and place. Like for me as an Asian American male, like my time right now is to be a part of these conversations, to be a part of, you know, trying to listen and learn and you know, and just appreciate the kind of conversation we had. And you know, I definitely pissed off a lot of people today, and I'm sorry, and I apologize to those people who I angered, and if I've hurt anybody in my actions, and for that I'm deeply sorry. And as we conclude this time, you know, if Victor, Yolanda, Katrina, if you guys could share your websites again, your organizations, the resources that we can donate to or give our time to or give our skills to, and so that we can really show some solidarity.
Gotcha.
Can we start with
I'm typing it in the chat box now for folks. I actually just shared a story that we did. I know we got like less than a minute left, but Victor Dempsey on Facebook, please follow us. But if you do want to donate, go to the forcedtrajectoryproject.com. That's Vanessa and all of us. That's our team right now, and you can donate there for us. I know Post has organizations. Katrina, go ahead, knock them out. But I appreciate you guys. Move forward in love, man. Transparency, consistency is key. And we should be planning a follow-up, honestly. We should be planning a follow-up.
Absolutely. Yeah, with Post is Protect Our Stolen Treasures on Facebook. You can donate at our website, protectourstolentreasures.strikingly.com. I'll make sure that they get that and put it up there. Also, at protectourstolentreasures@gmail.com on PayPal. We appreciate your help. Anything that you do, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be super major. Just, you know, every little bit helps. Don't just think about monetary help. Think about what you can do, you know, physically get out there. Because Post has
Did she freeze?
Yolanda?
Oh no.
She's about to say something so good.
What happened?
She froze.
I don't know, Vic. I just got to the airport though.
Oh, shit! I'm about to get some rest. I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, no, for real, man, please. I don't know who I can inbox. I can definitely follow up and send some materials and stuff out. But I'm definitely looking forward to follow-up conversation as well, you know. And I think we should start thinking bigger also. But you know, we have to start here. And I'm big on transparency, consistency, and love. That's it. That's all I can do. Be consistent, be transparent, and always show love. I think that's something that I live by. I try to follow, you know. I mean, these posts work. Sometimes they get a little loose, but you know.
And you can
But
donate
I appreciate
for
you all, man.
this
Thank you.
weekend. Vic, tell them again, they can donate for the event this weekend at Forced Trajectory
Yes,
Project.
this week. Yes, forcedtrajectoryproject.com. You can donate there. What we've done was we raised the money this week to fly all the families out to pay for their rooms. If we get more money, we could probably help pay folks, you know, meals and things like that. That's so super important to families only because we sacrifice so much of our regular time to fight our cases, taking days off of work, exhausting vacation days. So yes, honestly, I'm not saying financial gain is the only thing we need, but that support can go a long way. And that's not the only thing we use it for. We do use it to have rapid response for impacted families. So like now, if there's times we need to fly a family out to support someone, we'll have funds to do so. So it goes a lot further than that. And we're definitely big on trainings. We're trying to train folks on storytelling. We're trying to train folks on sound bites, how to get the best out of media. So these are things that we're actively doing. And again, we're always teaching ourselves and learning from each other. So if we can keep this up, man, I think this would be amazingly, amazingly powerful and beautiful. So like I said, I will try to follow up via email with Mike, Ken, and Sam, and try to send some other additional materials. But I don't want to take up too much of the ending time. So Yolanda, Katrina, you got anything else I want to say? And that was fast. I hope I need to slow down for some folks.
Nah, man, that's your New York voice, man. Lightning rounded, baby.
I see Yolanda back, so I want to let Yolanda finish her thought, you know.
just take the time to think about how you want to be treated. Then you don't have any questions to ask. You already know what to do. You know, it's really just that stupid simple. If you want to be treated like a human being, treat everybody like a human being. Let them prove themselves to be a monster. Don't assume that they are. Just learn to work together.
Thank you, Yolanda. And it's like a really heavy dose of wisdom right at the end there. And I feel like that's such a great way to wrap this conversation up for today. It was, you know, I don't think anybody expected this conversation to be easy. I don't think anybody expected, you know, to find all the answers to what we're looking for. But I'm just so grateful that we're able to have this conversation. Katrina, Victor, Yolanda, Kenny, Valerie, for, you know, and Nissa. I'm so grateful to the teams that put this together. You know, wash away the hate, be cool to Asians. Hate is a virus. I am not a virus. And I'm definitely forgetting one other, because I know we had
Racism is a virus.
Racism is a virus. I'm so grateful for this conversation to be had. I think it's been long overdue, and I don't want to act like this is the only time this has happened, right? We're not the only people between Asian Americans and Black people to have a conversation, but the fact that Nissa's back. But this needs to happen more. We need to keep having this conversation. We need to keep on having the hard conversations. We need to make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable, and I will too. I have so much growing and learning to do, and I apologize for any missteps that I had, and I'm gonna reach out to Valerie, and I'm gonna personally apologize. So everybody, thank you so much. You know, this is really challenging, difficult, painful time, and I think just recognizing that we're all hurting, but to not put ourselves ahead of the entire notion that everyone else is hurting too, and just remembering to understand that the world does not revolve around us, and that we are all part of a larger collective, and that is what we're striving for. We're striving for to dismantle systems of oppression and discrimination. We are striving for equality. We are striving for justice, and we are fighting for every single person to be seen, heard, and valued as a human being. With that being said, thank you, everybody. I love you. And I think, you know, if everyone, you know, any last words that they'd like to say? Nissa, I know you just rejoined us, so if there's any last words you would like to say.
Wondering where, thank you for having this. This has been a really constructive conversation. I hope that Victor covered, or Katrina covered their travel in terms of like what's happening this weekend. It's going to be big. We're really trying to get on national news. We want everybody to know that this is a family-centered movement against police violence. We cannot get justice, and we cannot end police violence without those most directly impacted, those closest to the issue, those who have lost loved ones to police violence. And also, I also want to mention that, you know, we have police killings in our Asian community, and they have absolutely no justice too. We got to find out who those people are. We got to reach out to them. They're hurting. They're all hurting. You know what I mean? There's so many families, all colors, that get no media attention at all whatsoever. The police narrative is a lie pretty much 99% of the time. I want people to think about this. When you hear the media report a police killing, know that the only thing that's true in that narrative that you can count on that is true is that person is gone, okay? That person is gone, but the narrative in terms of, oh, did they raise a gun? Oh, did they have one? Or were they the aggressor? That's the police narrative, okay? The police are actively manipulating the narrative because, let's just be honest, they're trying to uphold a system that protects the false white supremacist system that is hurting and killing us all, okay? So I just want to say that, please tune into our social media. We are active. We are on fire. I can't wait to be reunited with Vic and Katrina. Yolanda, I wish you were coming too and joining us, but I know you'll be checking us out. And, you know, hey, if anybody has CNN Connects or National Media Connects, please reach out to us. We got to be on national news to make this message happen and to really win this fight against police violence. Thank you.
Thank you. Yolanda, Victor, Katrina, any last words? I want to leave the mic with you.
I would like, and you know, fashionable family tradition, and I know before Katrina gets on the plane, I would like if everybody didn't mind. I know we can't hear folks, but the folks who can hear, we like to normally finish these things with just a chant of our loved ones' names, man. If people would like to join us in that, that would be amazing for us. And please uplift our loved ones. We need them uplifted. So I don't know, y'all want to lead? Anybody want to lead, or should I? Because I brought it up.
I think that's
There
the
you
powerful
go.
way to end it, my friend.
All right, so it's simple. I'll just say his name, Delrawn Smalls, and just repeat. That's it. Say his name, Delrawn Smalls.
Delrawn Smalls.
Nope, we gotta start over.
Unison, guys. In unison.
Gotta say everything.
Right.
Yeah, everybody. I'm saying say his name, Delrawn Smalls. You're saying say his name, Delrawn Smalls. It has to rhyme. It gotta flow.
Okay.
But now we're starting over. I'm not saying Delrawn Smalls. Nah, all right. I'm joking. Yolanda's gonna do hers. Then Katrina's gonna do hers. Say his name, Delrawn Smalls.
Say his name.
Delrawn Smalls.
Say his name, Delrawn Smalls.
Delrawn
Say his
Smalls.
Say his
name,
name,
Delrawn
Delrawn
Smalls.
Smalls.
One more time. We couldn't get it right. Say his name, Delrawn Smalls.
Say his name. Delrawn
Delrawn
Smalls.
Smalls.
That was close. Yolanda, your turn. Get it right.
Say her name, Adaisha Miller.
Say
Say
her
her
name.
name, Adaisha Miller.
Say her name, Adaisha Miller.
Say her
Say
name.
her name,
Adaisha
Adaisha
Miller.
Miller.
Say her name, Adaisha Miller.
Say
Say
her
her
name.
name, Adaisha Miller.
Miller.
Go ahead,
Katrina,
Katrina.
tell you, sis.
Say her name, Charleena Lyles.
Say her name,
Charleena
Charleena Lyles.
Lyles.
Say her name, Charleena Lyles.
Say her
Name,
name,
Charleena Lyles.
Lyles.
Say her name, Charleena Lyles.
Say
Say
her
her
Say her
name,
name,
Charleena
Charleena
Lyles.
Lyles.
Really quick. I'm sorry, and I hate doing this because I never mentioned all loved ones' names, but there are some new families that we unfortunately had to induct into this family out in New York that didn't get a chance for us to lift their loved one name because the pandemic hit. So I would also like to say this young man's name. Say his name, Matthew Felix.
Say his
Say
name,
his name, Matthew Felix.
Say his name, Matthew Felix.
Say
Say
his
his
name,
name,
Matthew
Matthew
Felix.
Can I do two more if y'all don't mind?
Who?
Say his name,
Go.
Antonia Williams.
Say his name,
Antonio Williams.
Say his name, Sahid Vassell.
Say his name,
Sahid Vassell.
I hate stopping because we can keep going, but those names are folks that still are fighting for justice. There's a lot of us fighting for justice, but these families are still learning the way. So I'm trying to do anything I can to uplift my family's name, all of our family's name, but especially these new families that don't have the support and can't get it because of the pandemic. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Victor, and thank you for all the work and the emotional tax and for coming on. I appreciate you. I see you. I hear you, and I stand with you. And to Yolanda, the same thing. I think, I see you, I hear you, and I stand with you. Katrina, I see you, I hear you, and I stand with you. Nissa, I see you, I hear you, and I stand with you. Kenny, I see you, I hear you, I stand with you. And to everybody that's still listening and still watching, I see you, I hear you, and I stand with you. And if we could all just collectively say that, I think that'd be a great way to end this. So on three, you guys all gotta unmute yourselves. I see Yolanda still muted, Kenny still muted. All right, on three, 1, 2, 3. I see you,
See you.
I hear
I
you.
hear you.
I stand with you.
Stand with you.
Stand with you.
One love all. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
I'll see y'all shortly.
Okay.